I'm looking at the chimney of somebody that I loved, who died there.
Somebody who died in that home?
Yeah, it just makes it
It's too awful to...
Jennifer Garner's friend tragically died in front of her during the devastating LA wildfires. What happened next will leave you speechless. The day had begun like any other. Jennifer and her close friend had been together in the church, taking comfort in their faith. They were at peace, a little moment of serenity amidst the hectic world around them. But that peace would be shattered in an instant. As Jennifer and her friend knelt in prayer, the sound of sirens in the distance was just the beginning of what would become a nightmare. Without warning, a roaring firestorm swept through the surrounding area, creeping closer and closer to where they were. What had started as a small spark had quickly turned into an uncontrollable blaze, spreading through the dry hills and heading straight toward their safe haven. They hadn't seen it coming. It wasn't long before the church's wooden walls creaked with the heat, and Jennifer could feel the temperature rising. Panic swept through her body, but she couldn't move. The fire was closing in, and her heart raced as she looked over at her friend. Desperately, Jennifer tried to keep calm, to think of a way to escape, but the firestorm was too powerful. Her friend, however, remained calm and continued to pray, seeking solace in their shared faith, pleading with Jesus for salvation. But salvation wasn't coming, not for her. In those final moments, Jennifer watched helplessly as the flames reached inside the church. She tried to scream, tried to pull her friend out of harm's way, but it was too late. Her friend was overtaken by the fire, and Jennifer could only watch in sheer horror. Her friend, a woman of unwavering faith, was taken from her in an instant, her body consumed by the fire as she prayed for deliverance. Jennifer's heart shattered, knowing there was nothing she could have done. She was powerless. The fire continued to rage outside, and Jennifer was left standing there, frozen with grief. Her friend had died in front of her eyes, in the place they both thought would offer them peace and protection. The tragedy was unimaginable, and Jennifer felt as if she had lost not just a friend, but a part of herself. But amidst the overwhelming grief, something inside Jennifer shifted. She couldn't stay there, buried in despair. She had to move. She had to do something. Jennifer knew that her friend's death couldn't be in vain. She couldn't change what had happened, but she could make sure that others didn't have to experience the same fate. She knew that her friend would want her to help. After the firestorm subsided, Jennifer didn't back away from the devastation. She didn't retreat into her grief. Instead, she took action, joining relief teams to provide help and comfort to those who had lost everything. Jennifer wasn't content to just mourn her loss. She wanted to make a difference. In the face of unspeakable loss, Jennifer became a beacon of hope for others. She worked tirelessly to provide food, shelter, and medical aid to those who needed it most. She coordinated with local organizations and government agencies to make sure that every person who had lost their home would be taken care of. Through it all, Jennifer's determination never wavered. She used the pain of her personal tragedy to fuel her work, never letting grief dictate her actions. She knew her friend would have wanted her to keep fighting, to keep helping, and that's exactly what she did. As the days turned into weeks, Jennifer's commitment to helping others only grew stronger. The devastation caused by the wildfires had left thousands without homes, and many had lost their loved ones, just like she had. But Jennifer was determined to give those affected by the fires a glimmer of hope in the midst of their despair. She quickly became the face of the relief efforts, tirelessly working alongside emergency response teams, local volunteers, and organizations like Save the Children. Together, they set up shelters, distributed food and water, and provided emotional support for those whose lives had been torn apart by the flames. In the weeks that followed, Jennifer visited various fire-affected communities. She didn't just hand out supplies. She sat with the survivors, listened to their stories, and offered them the strength to keep going. She spoke with families who had lost everything, offering words of comfort. And whenever possible, she helped them rebuild their lives. One of the most heartbreaking visits was to a group of children who had lost their homes in the fire. Jennifer had always been a champion for children, and she was deeply moved by the suffering these young ones had experienced. She knew that, in the wake of such a traumatic event, children needed more than just food and shelter. They needed to feel safe, they needed comfort, and they needed hope. With the help of Project Camp, Jennifer was able to set up pop-up camps for these children, providing a safe space where they could heal and begin to process the trauma they had experienced. These camps were designed to help children feel a sense of normalcy again, even if only for a little while. As the fires had ravaged the land, Jennifer knew that many families had been torn apart. Parents were still trying to figure out where to live, how to rebuild, and how to provide for their children. But at the camp, Jennifer saw something incredible, a spark of joy in the eyes of the children. The laughter of the kids playing and the smiles on their faces were a small but significant reminder that even in the darkest times, there could be moments of light. Jennifer's heart swelled as she watched the children interact, knowing that they were beginning to heal, even if just a little. But the work was far from over. The emotional toll on the survivors of the wildfires was profound, and many were still struggling to find hope. Jennifer's efforts to help them, however, went beyond just providing material aid. She knew that healing from such a traumatic event would take time, and she was committed to being there for the long haul. She continued to work with the survivors, offering her support, her time, and her heart. Jennifer became a symbol of resilience and compassion for the fire victims. She didn't just see them as people to be helped. She saw them as people who had the strength to overcome their challenges, just like she had to. Over time, Jennifer's work caught the attention of the media. People from all over the world were inspired by her dedication to helping others in the aftermath of such a devastating disaster. The wildfires had left a trail of destruction, but Jennifer's efforts had sparked a wave of kindness and solidarity. Despite the overwhelming sadness she felt, Jennifer refused to let the tragedy define her. Instead, she used her grief as motivation to create positive change. The loss of her dear friend had been devastating, but it also opened Jennifer's eyes to the pain that so many others were experiencing. She couldn't bring her friend back, but she could honor her friend's memory by continuing to help those in need. As the months passed, Jennifer's work became a beacon of hope for the fire victims. She knew that the road to recovery would be long, but she also knew that every small step made a difference. And as she worked tirelessly to rebuild the lives of others, Jennifer began to heal too. Her actions in the wake of the LA wildfires were a testament to her strength, her character, and her commitment to making the world a better place. She had faced unimaginable loss, but instead of allowing it to break her, she used it to fuel her desire to help others. Jennifer Garner was not just a survivor of the wildfires. She was a symbol of hope for all who had been affected by them. Through her work, Jennifer showed the world that even in the face of tragedy, there is always room for compassion, love, and resilience. Her story was not just about loss. It was about the strength that comes from coming together in times of crisis and the power of a single person to make a difference.